Intermittent fasting, you've heard of it, right? It's one of the biggest health trends out there, but the advice around it, it is all over the map. One day, it's a miracle cure. The next, it's a risky fad. So what does the actual science have to say about it? Today, we're going to cut through all that noise and look directly at the evidence. So let's start with this image, because it kind of gets right to the heart of the whole thing. The traditional idea behind intermittent fasting is sometimes described as, well, eat like a python. Alternating between these big periods of fasting and then feasting. It's this really primal cycle that's supposed to unlock all kinds of health benefits. But this is the big question, isn't it? Is fasting this amazing tool for improving our metabolic health, or are there some hidden risks that we're not really hearing about in all the headlines? We're going to break down the science, layer by layer, and really get to the bottom of it. Okay, so here's our game plan. We'll start with a big picture reality check on fasting for weight loss. Then, we're going to look at a really surprising finding about how age changes things. After that, we'll dive into what happens to your strength versus your endurance during a fast. And then, we'll get down to the molecular level and uncover the body's secret fuel switch before putting it all together. First up, the reality check. To get our bearings, we're starting with a massive review of the evidence on fasting and weight loss. I mean, this thing is comprehensive. And when I say massive, I mean it. The researchers didn't just look at one or two studies. They analyzed 99 different randomized clinical trials covering over 6,500 adults. A scale like that gives us a really powerful, clear look at what's actually going on. And the main finding might actually surprise you. When they compared intermittent fasting to a traditional continuous diet, just your standard calorie restriction every day, the benefits for weight loss were pretty much the same. So here's the crucial takeaway. Fasting works, for sure, but it doesn't seem to be a magic bullet. It's just another valid tool in the toolbox, not necessarily a superior one. Now, this is where it gets really interesting when you dig into the details. If you break it down by the type of fasting, one specific method, alternate day fasting, did show a small but statistically significant edge. We're talking about 1.3 kilos of extra weight loss. But for the other popular methods, like time-restricted eating, the results were basically identical to continuous dieting. Okay, so for weight loss, it's a useful tool. Got it. But the story gets way more complicated from here. A recent study suggests that the effects of fasting might change dramatically, depending on how old you are. So researchers looked at what chronic intermittent fasting did to mice of different ages, and the results were just, wow, complete opposites. In the old mice, fasting was great. It actually improved the function of their insulin-producing cells. But in the young, still growing mice, it was harmful. It impaired those same cells and even reduced their numbers. And this makes so much sense when you think about the biology. The researchers figure that young, developing cells need a steady stream of nutrients to grow and mature properly. Deny them that, and you can cause problems. On the other hand, older cells, which can get overworked by constant metabolic demand, actually benefit from the rest period that fasting provides. It's just a powerful reminder that biological context is everything. All right, now let's zoom in even further. What is actually happening inside your body during a more intense, longer fast? A really fascinating study put volunteers through a 7-day water-only fast and measured exactly what happened to their physical performance. The results showed this incredible trade-off. While the participants' aerobic endurance, think high-intensity cardio, dropped by a pretty significant 13%, their maximal muscle strength was almost completely preserved. Now, that is a really counterintuitive finding. I mean, think about that for a second. On average, people lost 4.6 kilograms, that's about 10 pounds of lean mass during that week. That is a substantial amount of muscle and tissue. You would absolutely expect their strength to just fall off a cliff. But it didn't. This slide shows that their max leg strength pretty much stayed the same. So they lost a significant amount of lean mass, but didn't lose strength. How is that even possible? Well, the answer lies at the molecular level. This brings us to the core mechanism. Your body is making a very clever and very ancient calculation here. It's prioritizing one type of physical ability over another, and it does this by flipping a powerful metabolic switch. And the key player here is an enzyme called PDK4. The simplest way to think about PDK4 is as your body's carbohydrate brake. Its whole job is to block your muscles from burning carbohydrates for energy, forcing them to use other things like fat and ketones instead. So here's how it all goes down. When the fast begins, the amount of this PDK4 protein in your muscles just skyrockets, a stunning 13-fold increase. This slams the brakes on using carbs, forcing your body to switch over to burning fat and ketones. This is a brilliant survival mechanism for sparing precious glucose for your brain, but it comes at a price. High-intensity exercise relies heavily on quick-burning carbs, so when that fuel is locked away, your top-end endurance drops. But your muscle strength, which uses different energy systems, is preserved. Okay, let's zoom back out and connect all of these dots. We've looked at the big picture on weight loss, the critical role of age, and the deep physiology of fasting. So what's the unified takeaway from all this? Here are the 4 crucial points. First, for pure weight loss, intermittent fasting is a solid option, but it isn't necessarily better than just standard calorie restriction. Second, context, especially your age, is critical. What's helpful for an older body might actually be harmful to a younger, growing one. Third, fasting triggers an evolutionary trade-off. Your body sacrifices that top gear of aerobic endurance to make sure your fundamental strength stays intact. And finally, this entire trade-off is orchestrated by that molecular switch, PDK4, that rewires your muscles' fuel preference to conserve carbohydrates. So, in the end, maybe the best way to think about fasting isn't as a diet or a hack, but as a powerful biological signal of stress, the stress of scarcity. It triggers this whole cascade of ancient intelligent survival mechanisms. And that leaves us with one last, crucial question. When you choose to fast, what message are you actually sending to your body, and is it ready to listen?